Yep, this was one of the largest gold veins on the East Coast, maybe in North America. I hope I'm in the right spot. Lots of folks here today. This was a hard rock mine where they had to mix it with the chemicals, big vats, in order to extract the gold. Of course, they stopped that years ago. And I came here in the 80s, talked to the old miners then when it was actually still a working mine. And they said that if gold got to $500 an ounce, or maybe $550, they would reopen the mine. But it never did, so they sold off the land up on top of the mine. But the mine was full of water. They had to pump it out. It was not cost effective. And of course you can't see it here, but up there is, believe it or not, Wally World. So they sold the property adjacent to the mine and probably right above the mine to the nice folks at Sam Walton, and then it was deemed an historic site, and now it's closed forever, and it's just a tourist attraction, which is probably a lot easier than hard rock mining, because it just doesn't work real well in such a, they've got the big college up here now, and it's not a small town anymore. It just doesn't work out. So worked out better to be a tourist attraction. It's pretty cool to go through the mine. I'll try and take some shots as well. So I'll come back to it here in just a minute. All right. Pretty cool. Let's take a look what's inside here. This looks like some type of, there's a movie you watch and some other stuff. So that's just looks like their overflow for their storage unit. But this down here is actually the mine. It's been raining a lot, but it's warm today. It'll be nice to go underground in the mine. So I'll try and turn it back on when we get down into the mine.
It should be pretty fun as long as you avoid hitting those rocks down there as well. Otherwise, if you guys are ready to check out some pretty cool stuff, we'll head on down here and start to check it out. Now, if you guys want to take any pictures, take as many as you'd like. However, I end up in them. Sorry about that. If you have any questions while we're down here, mention them to me. I'll do my best to answer them.
Part of the old water system. You can see the old drill points. Running water down in the mine.
Oddly enough, COVID was our busiest year here. Funny enough. But yeah, take a look at this big open spot right here in front of you. I don't think you're going to miss it. It's pretty big and hard to miss. This back in the day was full of one thing. That's called white quartz rock. We'll be taking a look at a big one as we step down here. There's a big vein right down here. That's where they found all of their gold, was in their white quartz. And this big vein right here had about 54 pounds, 9 ounces of gold. Now, back in their day, 54 pounds, 9 ounces of gold was about $200,000. However, 1 ounce of gold was about $25. imagine, 1 ounce of gold is not $25 anymore. It's about $1,900 an ounce. So that means that all the gold that they pulled out here in today's money is worth about $2 million. Which, as you can imagine, that's a good little bit of money. We're going to head down the stairs here, look at that big vein of quartz. Just watch your head on this rock. It's a little hard. If you hit your head on it, it's probably going to hurt. That being said, if you're any shorter than me, don't worry.
Oh, okay.
I don't have to do that. You're my height.
Take your time. Brace myself. Take your time.
No, ma'am, go ahead. Trying to take some video.
The only problem with that is this is a historical landmark, and if we decide to get more gold out of here, we're going to take it down here. And I really love coming down here, so I don't want that to happen. But right up here, this rock is pretty interesting. Looks pretty cool. It's like a little shelf. This is actually the most famous rock in the mine. The reason why it's so famous and well known is because we've given it a name. We call it the Wishing Rock. The reason why we call it that is also very, very simple. If you hit your head on it, you're probably going to wish that you did. I do want to warn you guys, every second we spend down here in the mine, the worse those jokes are going to get. But also at the very, very bottom of the staircase, we'll be about 200 feet underground.
Already?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it doesn't feel like we're really that deep underground, but you're pretty deep right now.
And drill rod, dynamite boxes.
down here for a good little while, and it's not coming out anytime soon. Now, this handstill was left here by one of these miners who worked down here, and he experienced something that not a lot of the miners down here want to experience. That's losing that handstill, because if you do lose that handstill, you also lose your entire day's worth of pay. And down here for this job, you got paid 50 cents a day. However, if this handstill got lost down here, you also lost that handstill. So you just didn't get anything for your whole day work down here. As you can imagine, you would probably pretty upset in that okay? Look right behind you, you'll see that cool little waterfall. If you'd like to see where all that water comes from, it's actually that level that I said is basically underneath us. It's right over here if you want to check that out. Yeah, there's little tunnel right here.
There's the gold-rich vein. Very wet, dark and wet. These timbers been down here. Of course, they redid most of these timbers.
So at some point down there, about 90 feet, it just gets to a layer of mud and rock. Not much other than there is a bunch of tunnels down there. However, all I can really show you there is just all that water. Now, as I said, this whole mine was flooded with water back in the day. These beans were not
Ooh, that's a scary movie.
Yeah. But when I was here in the 80s, the miners, they said that the price of gold was about $300 an ounce. And they're like, well, if the price of gold got to, you know, like around $550, they might try and pump that out and reopen the mine.
And here we are.
Yeah, well, that never happened real quick, so, you know, it stayed flat, and then they sold off to Walmart and made it a historic site. Then, of course, it went skyrocket, right? Of course, it was, he hasn't mentioned yet, but it's not placer, it's hard rock mining, which they had to use big chemical vats, you know, to extract the gold, which is not, they wouldn't allow it today in this area. It's too much residential now. Oh, is that another tour coming through? Let's see. We just follow this vein. I kept following that big vein. See that better? See the color in that vein.
Everybody else is like 25, 30. So,
The air drills. One of them stuck into the.
thank you guys, God, for here. This is one of my favorite parts. I can't believe it this time.
I'm coming. Ah, it's nice and cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, as I said before we came down here, everything's a lot cooler down here, literally and figuratively. Funny enough, though, even if you came down here when it was snowing on the surface, it would feel about the same temperature down here.
Oh my.
But I'm going to be talking about these little holes up here. This is what they would fill up with their dynamite. Keep in mind, these were all about 6 to 10 feet deep. And you had about 20 of them in a wall about this big. What you do is take that little stick of dynamite, only about that long or so, start to push it into the hole here. Use this broomstick. I guess you guys know what a broomstick looks like. I don't really need to show you. And then very slowly, you start to push that stick of dynamite all the way back. Now keep in mind, if you're filling every single one of these 6 to 10 foot holes with dynamite only about that long, that's a lot of dynamite you're putting in these holes here. Now, my favorite part down here is not talking about how they use their dynamite. It's talking about these light bulbs down here. Now,